The silence of stars. The stars had never looked so beautiful to Captain Elena Vasquez as they did from the bridge of the UES Pioneer. After 18 months of deep space exploration, her crew had finally reached the edge of known space, where ancient star charts marked only empty void. The Pioneer was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, equipped with the latest diplomatic protocols and first contact procedures. Elena had volunteered for this mission because she believed in humanity's potential to join the galactic community as peaceful explorers. The bridge was quiet except for the gentle hum of life support systems. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim monitored the sensor arrays while Chief Engineer Roberto Santos kept watch over the ship's experimental quantum drive. The crew of 43 had been handpicked from Earth's best and brightest, each person chosen for their skills and their commitment to peaceful exploration. Elena stood at the main view screen, watching the swirling patterns of distant nebulae. The Pioneer had been traveling for 6 months since leaving Earth's solar system, following ancient radio signals that suggested intelligent life in this region of space. The mission parameters were clear: establish first contact, assess the peaceful intentions of any species they encountered, and begin the process of diplomatic relations. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarms began to sound. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across her console as she analyzed the incoming data. "Captain, we're picking up massive energy signatures ahead. Multiple vessels, definitely artificial construction." Elena felt her heart rate increase. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. "Analysis, Lieutenant. 12 ships, Captain. They're enormous, each one at least 5 times the size of the Pioneer. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They're not using fusion or antimatter. This is something completely new." Chief Santos looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, they're hailing us. The signal is complex, but our translation protocols are already working on it." Elena straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. The first words spoken between humanity and another sapient species would be recorded in history forever. "Put them through." The main screen flickered and changed to show the interior of an alien vessel. The being that appeared was unlike anything humans had imagined. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Its features were sharp and angular, with 4 arms that moved with precise, calculated motions. When it spoke, its voice carried a musical quality that the translators converted into crisp, clear English. "Greetings, small vessel. I am High Commander Zephyr of the Cytherian Empire. You have entered our territorial space without permission. State your origins and intentions." Elena stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "High Commander Zephyr, I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Ship Pioneer. We come in peace from the Sol system, seeking to establish friendly relations with other sapient species. We had no knowledge of your territorial claims and apologize for any intrusion." The alien's expression remained neutral, but Elena noticed the slight tilt of its head that might indicate curiosity. "Earth, we have heard whispers of your species from the Outer Rim traders, a young race recently achieving interstellar travel. Tell me, Captain Vasquez, what do you know of galactic law?" Elena felt a moment of uncertainty. "We have theoretical knowledge based on our observations of other species' behaviors, but we acknowledge that we have much to learn. We hope to gain that knowledge through peaceful contact and mutual respect." High Commander Zephyr's 4 arms moved in what might have been a gesture of amusement. Peaceful contact. Mutual respect. Interesting concepts. The Cytherian Empire has been testing new species for over 3,000 years, Captain. We have learned much about the nature of sapient life during that time. "Testing?" Elena asked, her diplomatic instincts warning her that something was wrong. "Indeed. You see, Captain, the galaxy is a harsh place. Species that achieve interstellar travel fall into 2 categories: those worthy of joining the galactic community and those who are merely temporary curiosities. The test is quite simple, really." Elena's crew was listening intently to every word. Lieutenant Kim's fingers hovered over the tactical controls, though the Pioneer was equipped only with basic defensive systems. Chief Santos was quietly running diagnostics on their quantum drive, preparing for emergency departure if necessary. What the Cytherians were seeing was the result of humanity's greatest engineering project. Unable to build a fleet that could match alien technology, humans had instead focused on what they did best: creative problem-solving and resource optimization. Every significant asteroid in the belt had been hollowed out and converted into a mobile fortress, equipped with human-designed weapons that were crude but effective. The asteroid fortresses began their attack as the Cytherian fleet entered the belt. Instead of the energy weapons that galactic navies preferred, humans had chosen kinetic systems that accelerated projectiles to significant fractions of the speed of light. The weapons were primitive by galactic standards, but they were also unpredictable and devastating. High Commander Zephyr watched in growing alarm as his advanced shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, proved less effective against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The first Cytherian cruiser to fall was the glorious Victory, its hull breached by a tungsten rod that had been accelerated to 12% of light speed. Tactical analysis, Zephyr demanded as his fleet came under increasingly heavy fire. "Sir, the human weapons are based on kinetic impact rather than energy discharge. Our shields are calibrated for energy weapons. We're taking significant damage." Zephyr's expression showed the first signs of concern. "Adjust shield frequencies for kinetic impact resistance. All weapons target the asteroid installations. Eliminate them systematically." But humanity had learned from studying the Cytherian attack on the Pioneer. The alien weapons were powerful but predictable, following standard galactic patterns that human tacticians had analyzed and countered. The asteroid fortresses were equipped with advanced maneuvering systems that allowed them to dodge and weave through the alien bombardment while maintaining their own rate of fire. As the battle in the asteroid belt intensified, Marcus was preparing to launch Phase 2 of humanity's defense. The human fleet had been positioned not to engage the aliens directly, but to exploit the tactical situation that the asteroid fortresses would create. Commander Torres, status of the enemy fleet. They've lost 6 vessels in the asteroid belt and are taking continuous damage. Their formation is beginning to break down as they try to maneuver around the mobile fortresses. Perfect. Launch Phase 2. The human fleet emerged from hiding positions throughout the solar system, using the asteroid battle as cover for their approach. But instead of engaging in direct combat, they implemented tactics that no galactic navy had ever encountered. The ships moved in small groups, using hit-and-run attacks that struck at the Cytherian fleet's flanks and rear elements before disappearing back into the asteroid field. High Commander Zephyr found himself fighting a battle unlike anything in his 3 centuries of military experience. The humans refused to engage in the kind of organized fleet combat that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia. Instead, they used guerrilla tactics that turned every asteroid, every piece of debris, every shadow into a potential threat. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can coordinate our response. The human tactics are completely outside our operational parameters." Zephyr's 4 arms showed the gesture of frustration. "They fight like animals without honor or proper military protocol. Consolidate the fleet. We will break through their primitive defenses and complete our mission." But breaking through proved more difficult than expected. Every time the Cytherian fleet attempted to organize a coordinated advance, human ships would appear from unexpected angles, deliver devastating attacks, and vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. The asteroid fortresses continued their bombardment, and the Cytherians found themselves fighting on multiple fronts simultaneously. The battle raged for 18 hours. When it finally ended, the Cytherian fleet had been reduced to 12 ships, including the badly damaged flagship. High Commander Zephyr, his pride wounded and his confidence shaken, finally managed to break through the asteroid belt and approach Earth directly. "Human vessels," he broadcast on all frequencies, "I am High Commander Zephyr of the Cytherian Empire. Your primitive tactics have caused us inconvenience. but they have only delayed the inevitable. Surrender now, and your species will be granted a quick extinction. The response came not from Admiral Chen, but from President Williams herself, broadcasting from Earth's surface. The Pioneer's shields flared to life as the Cytherian weapons began their bombardment. The small Earth vessel fought back with everything it had, its crude weapons sparking harmlessly against the alien ship's superior defenses. Alina stood on the bridge, holding her crew together through sheer force of will as their ship was systematically torn apart. The battle lasted only minutes. When it was over, the UES Pioneer was nothing but glowing debris scattered across the void. High Commander Zephyr watched the destruction with satisfaction, then ordered his fleet to begin the journey toward Earth. The human species would be eliminated within the solar cycle, just as he had promised. But as the Cytherian ships prepared to leave, their sensors failed to detect the small probe that had separated from the Pioneer during the battle. Chief Santos had managed to eject the probe with a copy of all their data just before the ship's destruction. The probe was too small to detect, using passive systems only, and it began its long journey back toward Earth. The probe carried more than just data about the Cytherian Empire. It carried Captain Alina Vasquez's final message to humanity, recorded in her last moments as the Pioneer died around her. The message was simple, but it would change everything. Earth, this is Captain Vasquez. We have encountered a hostile alien empire that intends to destroy our species. They believe we are inferior, that we have nothing to offer. They are wrong. We are human, and we do not go quietly into the night. Make them pay for their mistake. The probe would take 11 months to reach Earth, traveling at sublight speeds to avoid detection. When it arrived, it would find a humanity that had been watching the stars and wondering why their first deep space mission had gone silent. The probe's data would answer that question, and it would transform human civilization forever. The Cytherian Empire had made many correct assessments about humanity. They were right that human technology was primitive compared to their own. They were right that human social structures were chaotic and inefficient by galactic standards. They were right that humanity had little to offer in terms of resources or knowledge. But they had made one critical error in their evaluation. They had assumed that human warfare was as primitive as human technology. They had seen the crude weapons on the Pioneer and concluded that humanity's military capabilities were equally crude. They had no understanding of human strategic thinking, of the way humans adapted and overcame impossible odds, of the fury that could drive a species to accomplish the impossible. High Commander Zephyr's fleet began the journey toward Earth, confident in their superiority and certain of their victory. They had eliminated thousands of species over the millennia, and they saw no reason why humanity would be any different. The Empire's records would show that Earth was cleansed of intelligent life, and the galaxy would continue to function according to Cytherian law. What they could not know was that humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology or its resources. It had always been its ability to unite in the face of extinction, to find solutions where none existed, and to turn disadvantages into advantages through pure determination and innovative thinking. The silence of stars would soon be broken by humanity's answer to the Cytherian Empire, and that answer would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. The answer in fire. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as the last human fleet in existence prepared for what might be humanity's final battle. 11 months had passed since Captain Vasquez's probe had reached Earth, and those 11 months had transformed human civilization beyond recognition. The peaceful explorers who had reached for the stars were gone, replaced by something the galaxy had never seen before, an entire species united in purpose and burning with righteous fury. The transformation had begun within hours of the probe's arrival. President Sarah Williams had called an emergency session of the United Earth Council, and the recordings from the Pioneer had been broadcast simultaneously to every human settlement in the solar system. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Every nation, every corporation, every individual human being understood that their species faced total extinction. But humanity's response had surprised everyone, including themselves. Instead of panic or despair, there was anger. Cold, calculating anger that demanded justice for Captain Vasquez and her crew. Within days, every human government had agreed to the largest military mobilization in history. Every factory had been converted to war production. Every scientist had abandoned their peaceful research to focus on weapons development. Marcus had been a logistics coordinator for the Mars colonies when the probe arrived. Now, 11 months later, he commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. The transformation had not been easy, but humans had always been adaptable. They had learned to fight wars against nature, against disease, against each other, and against seemingly impossible odds. Fighting aliens who wanted to exterminate them was just another problem to solve. The human fleet that surrounded the Retribution was unlike anything that had ever existed. Traditional military thinking had been abandoned in favor of innovative approaches that leveraged humanity's unique strengths. The ships were smaller than typical galactic vessels, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and designed around tactics that no alien species had ever encountered. Commander Lisa Torres, the fleet's tactical coordinator, approached Marcus with the latest intelligence reports. She had been a combat engineer before the crisis, specializing in asymmetric warfare scenarios. Now she was responsible for coordinating humanity's response to a threat that outgunned them by factors they couldn't even calculate. "Admiral, we've received the final scouting reports from the stealth drones. The Cytherian fleet is exactly where our projections indicated. 47 heavy cruisers, 12 dreadnought-class vessels, and their flagship. They're maintaining standard formation, approaching Earth at steady acceleration." Marcus nodded, studying the tactical displays. The Cytherian fleet was massive, powerful, and confident. High Commander Zephyr clearly expected to arrive at Earth and find a primitive species cowering in fear. He would discover that humanity had spent the last 11 months preparing a very different reception. "Status of the defense grid?" Marcus asked. "All stations are operational. The asteroid belt installations are ready. The lunar defense platforms are online, and the orbital ring around Earth is fully charged. But Admiral, even with everything we've built, we're still outgunned by at least 10 to 1. Marcus smiled grimly. "Commander, what did Sun Tzu say about fighting superior forces?" Torres had studied military history as part of her crash course in fleet operations. Know your enemy and know yourself. Use terrain to your advantage. Strike where the enemy is unprepared. Exactly. The Cytherians know their own strength, but they don't know ours. They've spent 3,000 years fighting the same kinds of battles against the same kinds of enemies. They have no idea what humans are capable of when we're backed into a corner. The bridge crew was a mix of former military personnel and civilians who had volunteered for service after the probe's arrival. Dr. Jennifer Walsh had been a quantum physicist before becoming the fleet's weapons coordinator. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez had been teaching high school before volunteering as a communications specialist. Each person had their own reason for being here, but they all shared the same determination to make the aliens pay for their mistake. "Admiral," Dr. Walsh called from her station, "the Cytherian fleet has just entered the outer system. Their energy signatures match our projections. They're not using stealth technology or attempting to hide their approach." Marcus wasn't surprised. The Cytherians had eliminated thousands of species over the millennia, and they had never encountered serious resistance. Why would they expect Earth to be different? "All stations, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy has entered our space. Execute Phase 1 of Operation Nemesis." Across the solar system, human installations that had been hidden in asteroids, on the dark sides of moons, and in the depths of space began to activate. The Cytherians had been expecting to find a primitive species huddled around their home planet. Instead, they discovered that humanity had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. The first indication that something was wrong came when the Cytherian scouts reported massive energy readings from the asteroid belt. High Commander Zephyr, commanding from his flagship Eternal Dominion, demanded an analysis from his tactical officers. High Commander, the energy signatures are consistent with weapons systems, but the configuration is unlike anything in our databases. The humans have somehow weaponized their asteroid belt. Zephyr's forearms moved in the gesture that indicated confusion. Weaponized asteroids? Impossible. No species has ever attempted such a primitive approach to system defense. Sir, the asteroids are not just weapons platforms. They're moving. The humans have somehow turned them into mobile defense stations. What kind of test? Elena asked, though she was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know the answer. High Commander Zephyr's expression changed, becoming something that might have been a smile on a human face. The test is this. Can your species produce anything of value to the Empire? Can you offer technology, resources, or knowledge that we do not already possess? If so, you may be permitted to exist as a client species under our protection. If not, the alien's voice trailed off meaningfully. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. And if not, then you are eliminated, Captain. Quickly and efficiently. The galaxy has no room for inferior species that contribute nothing to the greater good. Your death serves as a lesson to others about the consequences of mediocrity. The diplomatic protocols Elena had studied for years had never covered this scenario. She had been trained to negotiate, to find common ground, to build bridges between species. But the being on the screen was not interested in diplomacy. It was interested in judgment. High Commander, Elena said, forcing her voice to remain steady, humanity has much to offer. We are innovative, creative, and adaptable. We have solved complex problems through cooperation and ingenuity. We've overcome diseases, environmental challenges, and social conflicts that nearly destroyed our species. We learn from our mistakes and grow stronger. Zephyr's forearms moved in what was definitely amusement now. Captain, every species says the same thing when faced with the test. They all claim to be special, to have unique gifts that will benefit the Empire. But the test is not about what you claim to offer. It is about what you actually possess. Elena felt her diplomatic training crumbling under the weight of the situation. What do you want from us? Nothing, Captain. That is the point. Your species has achieved interstellar travel, but you have done so using primitive fusion technology. Your weapons are crude projectile and energy systems. Your social structures are chaotic and inefficient. You offer nothing that the Empire does not already possess in superior form. The alien paused, studying Elena's face on the screen. However, you have shown courage in coming here, and you have maintained dignity in the face of judgment. For this reason, I will grant you a quick death rather than the slow dissolution we reserve for cowards. Elena's mind raced. She had to find a way to save her crew, to warn Earth, to give humanity a chance to defend itself. High Commander, surely there must be some way to prove our worth. Give us a chance to demonstrate our capabilities. The decision has been made, Captain. Prepare your crew for termination. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. These were good people, scientists and explorers who had left everything behind to reach for the stars. They deserved better than this. Humanity deserved better than this. High Commander, Elena said, her voice carrying a new quality of steel, if you're going to murder us, at least have the courage to do it yourself, instead of hiding behind the pretense of a test. The alien's expression changed, becoming something darker. You dare to challenge the authority of the Cytherian Empire. I challenge the authority of any species that commits genocide and calls it justice, Elena replied. If that's what your empire represents, then I'm proud that humanity has nothing to offer you. High Commander Zephyr's forearms moved in a gesture that was unmistakably hostile. So be it. You will die knowing that your species will follow you into extinction within the solar cycle. The Empire has marked Earth for cleansing. The communication link cut off, leaving the bridge of the Pioneer in tense silence. Elena turned to her crew, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. Lieutenant Kim, prepare a full data burst to Earth. Everything we've learned, everything we've recorded. Make sure it gets through their jamming attempts. Alina's voice was calm and professional, but her crew could hear the underlying fury. Chief Santos, how long before their weapon systems achieve lock-on? Santos checked his instruments. Approximately 30 seconds, Captain. Their energy signatures are building rapidly. Alina nodded. Kim, transmit the data burst now. Santos, prepare for emergency quantum jump. Captain. Kim said, her voice tight with emotion. The data burst is away, but they're jamming our quantum drive. We can't jump. Alina closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with resolve. Then we make our stand here. If this is how humanity's first contact ends, let's make sure they remember it.